Incredible single mom takes on CEO's chess challenge. Discover the life-changing promise she unveiled. Angela wiped the sweat from her brow, the summer sun blazing down as she poured coffee for the regulars. Maplewood was bustling, and it was just another long shift at Nick's diner, where she served meals to the hopeful and weary. Juggling work and her 2 kids, she was a force of nature, a single mom hustling to make ends meet. But that day, something shifted in the air, a whisper of possibility that made her heart race. "Did you hear about the charity chess match?" One of the patrons leaned over as he bit into a blueberry muffin. "The CEO's hosting it. Winner takes home 10 grand. The words cut through the hum of chatter, igniting a flicker in Angela's chest. That 10 grand prize could change everything for her family. She could envision a new start, better clothes for the kids, maybe even a reliable car. As whispers of the event spread like wildfire through the small community, the excitement clashed with doubt. Friends warned her it was a risky move, a long shot, but Angela felt that thrill deep down. Could she really take her shot? Her eldest son, Daniel, remained skeptical, his brow furrowed with worry. "Mom, we need that money now, not a gamble on chess." The constant pressure of their bills weighed heavy, fueling her desperation. The sting of disappointment prickled her as she crossed her arms defensively. "I can do this, Daniel." The words felt fragile but resolute, promising she could prove herself if only she could get a break. After a night of sleepless tossing and turning, an unexpected ally appeared: Mr. Thompson, the elderly war veteran who frequented the diner. Finding him at a corner table, she sought comfort in his seasoned wisdom. "Life's like a chess game, Angela. It's about strategy and resilience." He taught her not just how to move pieces, but how to persevere against the odds. They practiced tirelessly, an unbreakable bond forming over pawns and kings, but as the big day approached, reality hit hard. In her first match, nerves twisted in her gut, and she faced a polished rival who oozed confidence. After a swift defeat, Angela left the board feeling hollow and ashamed. A crushing wave of guilt washed over her. Had she let her family down? She considered pulling out of the tournament altogether, convinced she had become a laughingstock. At her lowest moment, she sat at the kitchen table, her hands trembling. "Mom, don't give up." Her daughter's words pierced through her despair. "You're the bravest person I know." It was then she realized her children believed in her. The bond they shared wasn't just built on need, but on a fierce belief in her spirit. As her heart rallied, she prepared one last time for the final match, as anticipation thickened the atmosphere. Facing the CEO, the weight of her efforts hung in the air, a collision between her hard-earned determination and his privilege. Every spectator held their breath, the room thick with anticipation, but all Angela could hear was her own heartbeat echoing. This was for them. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With her hand hovering over the board, Angela felt poised for the greatest move of her life, not just in chess, but for her family's future. Would she emerge victorious or fold in defeat? The moment stretched, crackling with energy, the potential for transformation hanging in the air. This was more than a match, it was a reminder that sometimes, the greatest battles fought are the ones in our hearts. Angela's fingers brushed the smooth surface of the chessboard, her breath hitching as she locked eyes with the CEO across from her. He was adorned in a crisp suit, a sly grin dancing on his lips, a reminder of all she was up against. The audience around them faded, each heartbeat a drumroll building her suspense. "Your move," he said, his voice steady, but beneath it was a challenge. She exhaled slowly, feeling the pulse of the room. Every spectator's gaze was glued to their duel, not just a game of kings and pawns, but a battle for her family's future. Memories of sleepless nights, of pizza dinners made of torn coupons, of her children's hopeful smiles, all of it surged within her. No room for doubt or fear. Angela leaned forward, scanning the board, remembering Mr. Thompson's words. Each piece represented a part of her life, a struggle, a triumph. With every move, she could feel her heart rate quickening, but she steadied herself. She recalled Daniel's worried face, the way Lily looked at her with brimming admiration. This wasn't just chess, it was about proving to them that dreams could take root, flourish, and heartbeats could transform into victories. She slid her knight across the board, a move she had practiced over and over. The knight took one of his pawns, pushing back against the tide of discouragement that threatened to wash over her again. The crowd erupted in subtle murmurs. Could it be? Was the underdog actually fighting back? The CEO furrowed his brow for the first time, the glimmer of surprise lighting his eyes. Angela felt that small victory spark a fire of hope inside her. He retaliated swiftly, capturing her knight with his bishop, reasserting his dominance. But she wasn't backing down. She could picture real change. It was just a few moves away. Her heart surged with renewed resolve as she moved her queen, placing pressure on him. Piece by piece, each move was deliberate. With every exchange, the tension in the room thickened, a palpable force hanging between their competing dreams. As the match progressed, doubts flickered into her mind. What if she truly failed? What if her kids saw her defeated? But then, she silenced her inner critic, focusing on the alternatives, envisioning a future where joy reigned over anxiety, where her children no longer had to worry about money. A few more calculated moves and the momentum shifted. Angela felt it, the energy of the crowd, their growing excitement was contagious. Whispers of disbelief rippled through the room. The CEO's confidence wavered, his carefully perfected game plan slightly faltering. She seized the opportunity, aggressively pressuring him. Play to win, Angela. Mr. Thompson's voice echoed in her mind. One last decisive move and her queen captured his rook. It was bold, unexpected, and could change the course of the game. The audience gasped, their collective breath held tight, disbelief palpable. In that moment, something ignited in her. It wasn't just about the chess pieces anymore, it was about breaking free. She could feel the weight of her family's future hanging on this match, and it lay within her grasp. But as the tantalizing scent of victory filled the air, she suddenly noticed her daughter's worried expression in the audience, the innocence in her eyes mixed with concern. Doubts tried to creep back in, but Angela shook them off with a fierce determination, reminding herself, "You are their hero, Angela. You have to go all the way." With the final moves unfolding, the atmosphere thickened, and Angela prepared for her last decisive play. Could she give it everything and still come out on top? Would her gamble pay off for the sake of her family, or would she fold under pressure once again? The answer lay just a move away, but it was one she would have to be bold enough to take. What if this final bold play was not just the last chance in this match, but the ultimate chance to redefine everything she thought possible? As she leaned forward, the whole room seemed to hold its breath alongside her, waiting for the moment that could change everything. Angela inhaled deeply, her heart racing as she focused on the chessboard. The tension in the room felt electric. Her eyes flickered between the pieces, each representing her hopes, her struggles, and most importantly, her family's future. She could almost hear Daniel's gentle voice, urging her forward, "You've got this, Mom." The love and trust in her children fueled her resolve. With a steady hand, she lifted her queen, every muscle in her body reminding her of the stakes at play. The CEO's lazy grin had vanished, replaced by a glint of uncertainty. She seized that moment, sinking into the rhythm of the game. One swift motion, and her queen took his bishop in a bold attack, his strongest defender now removed from the board. Gasps erupted from the crowd. A ripple of disbelief washed over them. She had made a statement. Such an audacious move. Someone whispered in the audience. Angela's heart swelled with unexpected exhilaration, but just as quickly, doubt clawed at her. What if she had gone too far? What if this was her downfall? Looking up, she caught sight of Lily, her daughter, perched on the edge of her seat, eyes wide with a mix of worry and admiration. Angela's breath hitched. Despite everything, she had to remind herself this was for her kids, their future. This wasn't just a game, it was a turning point. The CEO leaned back, calculating. Angela could almost hear the gears turning in his mind. A smug smile crept back onto his face as he moved his rook forward, capturing her knight. He was reclaiming control, but she wouldn't let him intimidate her. No more wallowing in what-ifs. She was here to win. Look at that! Mr. Thompson shouted, his enthusiasm infectious. That's the spirit, Angela. The support from the crowd bolstered her. She adjusted her position, feeling their energy swallow her doubts. This was about more than winning, it was about legacy, courage, and proving that dreams weren't just for the privileged. For Angela, each piece on that board was a testament to resilience. She could see it now, the future where her kids felt secure, excited, and without a cloud of worry hanging over their heads. With renewed clarity, she made her next move. Rooking over the board, she knocked off another piece, a small victory that amplified her confidence. She moved closer to checkmating him. The audience erupted in cheers, their excitement like a warm embrace. She could almost feel the light of hope breaking through the darkness of her past struggles. But just as the tide seemed to turn, he moved again, unexpectedly capturing her rook. His eyes now filled with steely determination. It wasn't over yet. She could hear the whispers of the crowd dwindling, tension rising again. Angela felt the pressure mounting, doubt slithered back, whispering, what if this isn't enough? What if you lose everything? Angela clenched her fists, grounding herself. No. She wouldn't let fear win. She could almost hear her father's voice from years ago. Angela, you're stronger than you think. That mantra fortified her resolve. It was time to take that leap of faith. The next move would define it all. Come on, she whispered to herself, a prayer and a battle cry all in one. She glanced briefly at Lily, drawing strength from her daughter's belief in her. Leaning in, Angela prepared to make her final play. Would this moment define who she was and who she could be? Would her boldness pave the way for the life she dreamed of for her family? As the crowd waited in silence, it all came down to this. Angela's hand hovered above the board, the weight of the moment pressing down on her like a heavy cloak. She could feel every heartbeat echoing in her ears, drowning out the noise around her. In that silence, she found clarity. Closing her eyes for just a split second, she envisioned the life she wanted for Lily and Daniel, a life filled with laughter, opportunity, and safety. With a deep breath, she opened her eyes, focusing back on the pieces laid out in front of her. Her gaze locked onto the enemy king, vulnerable and exposed, waiting for her to make her move. It felt like a cosmic alignment, as if all the stars had suddenly agreed with her ascent. The whispers of doubt faded, replaced by a fiery determination that surged through her veins. Angela, make your move, she urged herself, the words a steady rhythm in her mind. In one swift action, she slid her queen diagonally across the board, moving her towards the king. It was a bold move, audacious and perhaps reckless, but it was one she believed in with all her heart. Her fingers trembled, more from anticipation than fear. The crowd fell silent again, their breath collectively hitching. Angela glanced up to see some faces in disbelief, others filled with hope. Lily's eyes sparkled, reflecting an unwavering faith that warmed Angela's heart. She could feel Daniel's pride radiating from where he sat, even amidst the growing tension in the room. As Angela declared, check. She felt the weight of her words and the power behind them. The CEO's smug expression cracked, revealing uncertainty beneath. He studied the board, his brow furrowing, as if she had suddenly become an unpredictable enigma he couldn't comprehend. Interesting choice, he said coolly, but his voice trembled slightly. Angela took that as a victory in itself, but the battle had not concluded. He took a moment to strategize, the air charged with anticipation. She watched as his fingers swept across the pieces, like a predator stalking its prey. Sweat began to gather at her temples as every eye bore down on her, and a wave of anxiety rolled through the crowd. "Don't you dare show fear, Angela," she thought, squaring her shoulders. She had come this far, and giving up was no longer an option. The CEO moved, repositioning his rook to threaten her queen. It was a lure, she realized, a trap she had to navigate carefully. With her heart pounding, she visualized her options. Each piece represented not just game elements but her life, her dreams, the future she was fighting for. Lily cheered from the sidelines, "You can do it, Mom." The sincerity in her voice enveloped Angela like a warm blanket, cutting through the tension and reigniting the fire within. A part of her hesitated. Was she truly ready to gamble it all? But then she thought about the late nights, the sacrifices, and the lessons she wanted to teach her children. No more fallback plans, no more half measures. In a single heartbeat, she made up her mind. Swooping her hand forward, Angela moved her queen once more, positioning her for an all-or-nothing play. "Checkmate, I believe," she declared, her voice steady and unyielding. The CEO's eyes flew wide, the color draining from his face. The room erupted into a cacophony of gasps, whispers, and shouts of disbelief. Angela's heart soared. But could it really be? This was just a game, or was it? As the applause thundered around her, she met the gaze of the CEO, feeling a strange mix of exhilaration and trepidation. Because in that moment, she realized winning wasn't just about defeating him, it was about finally proving to herself that she was enough. And yet, as the echoes of excitement faded, a new question lingered at the edge of her mind. What would this victory truly cost her in the end? Waiting for the answer to unfold, she felt the oncoming tide of change. Would it be the start of something extraordinary, or a new challenge lurking just beyond the horizon? The clamor of the crowd faded slowly into a distant hum, and Angela's chest tightened. She had done it. The exhilaration coursing through her veins felt like electricity. But as she stood there, a new emotion crept in: fear. The victory wasn't just about today or about her game, it was about the belief in herself that she desperately needed to protect. "Mom, you did it." Lily's voice broke through the haze of her thoughts, a bright spot in a sea of uncertainty. Angela turned to face her daughter, her heart swelling with pride. "Thanks, sweetheart," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She crouched down, pulling Lily into a tight embrace. In that moment, all the struggles of the past felt momentarily absolved. They were enough, together. But as Angela straightened, she caught the CEO's gaze again. That smug look had transformed into something resembling fury, a beast put away for far too long, now stirred by defeat. The hunger for revenge could be seen in the twitch of his jaw. "Let us not forget, this is just a game," he spat, his voice a cold whisper sharp enough to slice through the remaining cheer. "We'll see how you fare in the real world." The threat hung thick in the air, wrapping around Angela like a chilling fog. What had begun as a friendly tournament had now spilled into something infinitely more serious. Would there be consequences for her audacity? Was this victory a mere stepping stone, or a red flag to a storm brewing on the horizon? Lily tugged at her sleeve, her innocent eyes seeking reassurance. "Mom, are you okay?" Angela knelt down again, steadying her breath. "Yeah, sweetheart, I'm okay. It's just a game." But as she said the words, a part of her felt the weight of their meaning shift. Life was often like chess. Each piece, every decision could lead to victory or defeat, but it was her kids who mattered most in this game. "Can we go get ice cream?" Daniel appeared to break the tension, his face glowing with pride. "To celebrate?" "You were amazing." Angela nodded, her heart warming in the presence of her children. "We'll get the biggest sundaes we can find." She ruffled Daniel's hair and felt a lightness return, if only briefly. As they made their way out of the stuffy room, she caught whispers from the crowd filling the space behind her. Some praised her bravery, others speculated about the implications of her win. Angela's heart raced again. What were they saying? What would the CEO do next? Days passed, but Angela could feel an impending shift in the atmosphere wherever she went. Lily and Daniel continued their lives blissfully unaware. But Angela? She felt as though she was standing at the precipice of something monumental. Every morning brought new emails from the CEO, elegantly worded but dripping with veiled threats. They were layers of the chess game she hadn't anticipated. Though she had conquered him on the board, his next move was brewing in the shadows of the corporate world. Angela, she whispered to herself, you can handle this. But the echo of her own voice felt unsure, and doubts began to creep in. What if she had awakened a sleeping giant? The thought consumed her as she prepared for her next move. What strategy would protect her family? Was she in over her head? And then it hit her, the answer was within the challenge itself. She needed to think like a queen, to be bold and resolute. As she set her resolve, determined to address whatever was coming for her, she turned to her children. All right, you two, let us plan our next adventure. We have a lot coming our way. But as their laughter filled the room, Angela couldn't shake that tightness in her chest. What sacrifices would she have to make to shield them from the fallout of her victory? The journey was beginning to take unforeseen turns. She could feel it. What started as a simple game had transformed into a fight for her future. Little did she know, the real challenge was just getting started. What unexpected alliances would she form, and would they be enough to safeguard her family? The sun poured into the kitchen the following morning, illuminating the remnants of last night's ice cream adventure. Angela stood at the counter, staring into her coffee cup. Steam curled upward, carrying the sweet scent of comfort. But in her heart, a storm brewed. The CEO's warnings gnawed at her like relentless waves against rock. Hey, Mom, you coming? Daniel's cheerful voice broke through her thoughts. He was already dressed for school, backpack slung over one shoulder, excitement radiating off him. Yeah, buddy, just need a minute, she replied, forcing a smile. She felt the weight of his joy pressing against her growing anxiety. As she packed Daniel's lunch, memories of her victory replayed in her mind. It felt like a lifetime ago, but shadows lingered. A nagging thought surfaced: had she truly won, or had she merely postponed the inevitable? Mom! Lily squealed from the living room. Look what I made. Angela hurried to see. Lily had crafted a makeshift crown from colorful paper and stickers. It's for you, because you're the queen. Her daughter beamed. The tenderness of that moment filled the room, a net of warmth amidst the chill of doubt. Angela crouched to Lily's level, placing the crown atop her head. Thank you, love. I'm so lucky to be your queen, she said, hugging her tight. But as she held her daughter close, Angela felt a flicker of guilt. Could she truly protect them from the fallout of her actions? Would the CEO strike back like a cornered wolf? Let us go. Daniel called again, pulling her back into the moment. Or we'll be late. Reality snapped into focus. She couldn't let her fears consume her, she had to continue moving forward. Today was a new day, a chance to weave her strategy for the growing battle ahead. Work was a flurry of meetings and phone calls, but Angela found herself distracted, eyes darting to the clock. Each tick echoed like a drumbeat, a reminder that time was running out. Her thoughts drifted back to the emails. Each one, polished and silky on the surface, concealed a sinister intent. In her quiet moments, she dissected them again. The words took on new meanings, whispers of intimidation veiled beneath the CEO's charm. Angela began drafting replies, not just defensive, but purposeful. No longer just responding, she would dictate the narrative. Angela, can I speak with you? Her colleague Mark interrupted her thoughts, his brow creased with concern. Of course, she replied, motioning him to sit. She sensed a quiet understanding between them as he leaned closer. What is going on? You seem different. Is everything all right? Just juggling a lot, she managed, but his keen eyes betrayed his frustration. Look, I heard some chatter around the office. People are worried about the repercussions of your win. I want you to know, I've got your back if things get dicey. Her heart swelled. Support, even from unexpected places, was like a lighthouse guiding her. Thank you, Mark. It means a lot. They talked for a few more moments, a lifeline throwing her a buoy in the turbulent sea. But she still felt the tension in her chest, the thought of holding on to her family and their happiness while battling unseen forces. As the day drifted into evening, Angela returned home, her mind whirling with plans. The kids were already in the living room, the glow of the television illuminating their faces. She smiled at the sight, but a shadow crept back over her. Could she maintain this fragile happiness? Lily bounded over, her eyes wide with excitement. Guess what, Mom? We're having a treasure hunt at school tomorrow. Angela's heart fluttered at her daughter's enthusiasm. That sounds so fun. What do we need for it? Lily grinned. Just your imagination. Angela chuckled, drawing her close again. Then we better make a plan. They spent the night mapping out treasures and using their creativity. In those simple moments, everything felt right. Yet, deep down, Angela knew daylight would bring new challenges and tests. As she tucked them into bed, the gravity of the night weighed heavy. What if, in pursuing this path, she jeopardized everything she loved? How could she protect them when the threat remained so close, lurking behind her every move? Stretching back into the darkness of her own thoughts, she whispered a final promise to herself. The game was far from over. Tomorrow would bring struggles, but she'd refuse to back down. Like a queen on the chessboard, she would fortify her defenses. And as she lay in bed, her mind raced. Would her determination carry her through, or would the CEO's next move send them all tumbling into chaos? The next morning felt different. With renewed resolve, Angela pulled herself out of bed, ready to face whatever the day had in store. She could feel the weight of the crown Lily had made for her, like a gentle reminder of her duties both at home and in the corporate world. Mom! I'm ready. Daniel rushed into the kitchen, his backpack flapping against his side. His excitement was contagious, a burst of energy Angela needed. She poured him a glass of orange juice and ruffled his hair as he finished his breakfast. Don't you dare tell your sister that I'm the queen and you're my knight, all right? Angela joked, trying to lighten her own mood. Daniel laughed, an easy sound that warmed her heart. I won tea, Mom. Your secret's safe with me. He said, a cheeky grin lighting up his face. After they got dressed, Angela walked them to school, holding their hands tightly. Each step felt like a small act of defiance against the uncertainty that loomed over her. She was their protector, their shield. And today, she intended to show that, dropping Lily and Daniel off, Angela's heart ached a little as she watched them disappear into the school building. A sigh escaped her lips. This wasn't just a battle for her career, but also for the future she wanted to create for her children. Back at work, she steeled herself for the day. Emails filled her inbox like a dam ready to burst. She dug in, responding to the barrage with careful calculated words. Each message was a strategic move, a push back against the storm. With every click of the send button, she felt empowered, like each reply was a tiny victory. Mid-morning, Mark stopped by her office again. Hey, you're really on a roll today. He said, a smile easing his earlier concern. I'm just doing what needs to be done, Angela replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. But what about you? Are you all right? I know this has everyone on edge. Me? I'm just fine, he said, but a flicker of doubt crossed his eyes. I'm just worried about you. The CEO is a slippery character, and I don't want you to be blindsided. His words settled in Angela's gut like a stone. I know. I'm keeping my eyes open, she assured him, but deep down, fear entwined with her determination. What would be the next move in the game? As the afternoon wore on, a knock interrupted her concentration. It was her boss, a tall figure who exuded authority. "Angela, I need to see you in my office," he said, his voice steady but firm. The walk to his office felt like a march to the gallows. Every step quickened her pulse. What if this was the CEO's first counterattack? Inside the office, the atmosphere felt charged. The walls seemed to close in as her boss gestured for her to sit. "Angela, I've been getting feedback about your recent performance," he began, studying her closely. "The executive team is impressed, but they're concerned about the backlash." "Backlash?" she repeated, her voice steady despite the tumult inside. "Your win was perceived as a challenge to upper management. There are whispers of changes coming. I need to know you're prepared." Prepared? The word echoed in her mind. But she couldn't afford to appear vulnerable. "I'll handle it," she replied, her heart racing. "I'm ready for whatever they throw at me." Her boss nodded, but doubt lingered in his eyes. "Just remember, Angela, it's not just your career at stake here. You've got to think of your family." Those words hit her like a punch to the gut. She had already focused on the stakes for herself, but the implications for her children, those innocent lives intertwined with hers, made the challenge even more significant. If she fell, what would become of them? Leaving the office, Angela's breath came in quick bursts. How could she protect her kids while standing firm at work? The tension was too much to bear. As the day began to wind down, she realized she couldn't do this alone. She needed allies, supporters, people who believed in her. Maybe even a way to shift the narrative before it began. But just as she settled into her thoughts, an email pinged her inbox. The subject line chilled her to the bone. Yesterday's meeting. With shaking hands, she opened it, fear coursing through her. What awaited her on the other side? The ground felt unsteady beneath her feet as she read the ominous message that could change everything. The danger was closer than she had thought, and the game was finally on. What new moves awaited Angela, and would she find the strength to protect all she held dear? Angela's heart pounded as she read the email. The cool glow of the screen illuminated her worried face. The words seemed to twist and coil around her stomach like a snake, suffocating and intense. "We need to discuss your future with the company. Meet me in my office at 9 a.m. sharp." The message felt like a trap carefully set, and every nerve in her body screamed for her to run. But running was no longer an option. She had made sacrifices, not just for herself, but for her kids, and she would not let fear dictate her actions. Taking a deep breath, she closed the email and pushed it to the back of her mind as best she could. All she could do now was prepare. That night, after dinner, Angela sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open with a flurry of documents and reports sprawled out like soldiering troops. Lily and Daniel did their homework nearby, occasionally lifting their heads to catch a glimpse of their mom, whose brow was furrowed in concentration. "Mom, do you need help?" Lily asked, her voice soft and caring, feeling the tension that hung in the air like a storm ready to burst. "I'm okay, sweetie. Just busy with work," she replied, forcing a smile to her lips that didn't quite reach her eyes. Lily nodded but didn't seem convinced. Deep down, Angela wished she could share the burden with her children, but they were so young. She needed to shield them from the harsh reality of adult problems, even if it felt isolating. As the clock slowly ticked towards bedtime, distraction proved to be an elusive ally. Eventually, the kids went to bed, and Angela sank into the couch, the room dimly lit, scrolls of papers scattered around her. With a heavy sigh, she glanced at the silver crown lying on the table next to her. The crown Lily had lovingly crafted felt heavier now, not just a symbol of her role as their mother, but as the warrior she needed to become at work. How could she be both? Could she pull off being a fierce protector while also fighting the corporate dragons? She sank into a deeper thought, replaying conversations she'd had with Mark, the warning spoken by her boss. Before she knew it, The hours slipped away, and she fell into a restless sleep filled with visions of boardrooms and family dinners, of her fierce determination clashing with looming shadows. Morning arrived too soon, the sunlight creeping in through the curtains. Angela awoke with a jolt, the weight of the day ahead grinding on her chest. After hastily getting dressed, she navigated through the motions of breakfast, the kids buzzing with excitement for the day ahead, blissfully unaware of the battle awaiting her. "Gonna be the best day ever, Mom." Daniel peeped, with tiny fists raised in triumph. "Yes," Angela said, her voice stronger than she felt. "The best day." Half an hour later, she stood in front of the company building, heart racing. The sleek glass windows reflected not just the skyline, but her doubts and fears. She pushed the thoughts away, forcing herself into the glass doors. Each step inside conjured a feeling of purpose, a fire igniting within. As she entered the elevator, she saw the faces of her coworkers, some nodding in acknowledgement, others carefully avoiding her gaze. This was her opportunity. She couldn't walk into that meeting as the underdog. She would not be seen as weak. When she arrived at her boss's office, he looked up as she knocked. His expression was unreadable, and the atmosphere felt tense. Once seated, she noticed the clock on the wall ticking down her every second, but she wouldn't let it drown her resolve. "Angela," he began, "I'm going to be straight with you. The board is worried about possible fallout from your recent promotion. You've rattled cages, and they want to ensure you know what's at stake." She squared her shoulders, heart racing but her voice steady. "I understand, but that's what drives me to succeed. I won't let you or anyone down." He raised an eyebrow, the tension palpable. "What if I told you they're considering a possible demotion if these concerns aren't addressed?" The sentence dropped like a stone into a still pond, sending ripples through Angela's resolve. Could she really fight for everything she believed in, even if it meant exposing herself to vulnerability? But as doubt clung to her like a shadow, she lifted her chin, a spark igniting in her heart that whispered, "Fight back." What did she have to lose now? "Let me prove myself," Angela replied, determination blazing in her eyes as she prepared to lay her cards on the table. But would her courage be enough to turn the tide? Angela's heart thudded in her chest as she spoke. The words hung in the air, a fragile yet potent promise. She could see the flicker of surprise in her boss's eyes. This was not the response he had expected. "Prove yourself?" he echoed, leaning back in his chair, crossing his arms. "And how do you propose to do that?" She took a breath, feeling the burning heat of determination swell in her chest. "I will show results. Give me a chance to lead a project that revamps our outreach. Make me accountable for the next quarter's performance." The confidence that surged through her was both thrilling and terrifying. It was no small request. Taking the reins could either solidify her standing or unravel the delicate thread she was trying to weave in her career. But this was a moment she had long dreamed of, a chance to step out of the shadows and command the space she deserved. "Bold," he said slowly, his skepticism evident. A long pause followed as he weighed her words. "You know the stakes. It could backfire." "I understand the risks," she said firmly. "But I have a vision. I believe I can do this, and believe I will succeed. I won't back down now." His eyes narrowed, contemplating. This was a game he was used to playing, the chessboard strewn with pieces he had carefully maneuvered through the years. Angela realized that she was stepping onto the field of battle without a helmet. "Very well," he said at last, the hint of a challenge dancing at the corners of his mouth. "You have your project. But remember, failure isn't an option." As she stood up, the gravity of his conditional approval settled over her. This was her moment. The stakes were high, and failure loomed like a dark cloud threatening a storm. "You won't regret it," Angela promised, her voice steady despite the anxious flutter in her stomach. Leaving his office, she felt an odd mix of exhilaration and fear. The conversation echoed in her mind, like a dual melody of hope and dread. One step closer to proving her worth, yet the pressure was palpable. Back at her desk, she rifled through emails, each click drawing her deeper into the pulse of the day. The usual buzz of conference calls and deadlines waited, but her focus had sharpened. She jotted down ideas, began crafting a plan, and visualized each piece working together like clockwork. Failure wasn't an option, not now. Suddenly, a notification popped up on her screen. It was from Lily, a little video clip, her daughter, dancing with Daniel, playful and free, that sweet laughter spilling out like music. The weight of stress briefly faded, replaced with warmth. She smiled, feeling the love radiate from them across the distance, but she couldn't stay lost in that moment. Their faces reminded her of why she fought so hard. The sacrifices, the late nights, the juggling, this was all for them. Angela's resolve solidified. The next few hours turned into a whirlwind of brainstorming sessions, late-night calls, and relentless coffee runs. The number of times her heart raced at an idea was only matched by the number of times self-doubt threatened to creep in. "Don't think like that," she whispered to herself during quiet moments, "you have a plan." Days passed as she threw herself into her new project, and she was stunned by the creativity bubbling up from her efforts, ideas that sparked excitement. She felt the tide of the workplace shifting, the atmosphere around her vibrating with energy. But just as she began to thrive, an unexpected call changed everything. "Angela, we need you in a meeting now," her colleague's voice crackled through her phone, urgency in every syllable. "Why? What is going on?" she asked, heart dropping. "There's been a decision at the top level. We may be losing a major client," came the reply. The fear that washed over her felt like ice. The stakes had just gotten higher, and the clock was ticking faster. Could she rally the team and steer this crisis away from chaos? As she stepped into the conference room, filled with anxious faces, she wondered if she had the strength to face this new storm. The moment felt pivotal, a crossroads that could change everything. Would she sink or swim? The answer hung in the air, waiting to be discovered. The conference room buzzed with tension. Angela surveyed the worried faces of her colleagues, people she had come to admire and respect. This wasn't just a meeting, it was a moment. The stakes felt higher than ever. "All right, everyone, let's take a breath," she said, her voice steady. She glanced around, catching the anxious eyes of Mark, who gave her an encouraging nod. Even amidst the chaos, she could feel a flicker of warmth spreading through her. "Here's the plan," she began, pulling up her notes. "We need to address the client head-on. We can't wait for them to come to us, we need to show them just how valuable we are." Clutching her notebook tightly, her heart raced with a mixture of adrenaline and fear. "Are you sure that's the right approach?" another colleague questioned, apprehension lacing their voice. "What if they're already set to pull out?" Angela felt the weight of that doubt settle heavily in the room. Yet, standing in that moment, surrounded by people who believed in her, she remembered her children's faces. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions any longer. "No one knows our work like we do," she replied with newfound confidence. "We have to demonstrate our commitment not just in words, but in actions. Let's create a personal presentation, showcase our recent successes, and highlight the potential for future collaboration." Whispers of agreement began to ripple through the crowd. She could feel the collective energy shift, it was contagious. "Let's split into teams," Angela suggested. "We have to generate fresh ideas and make this presentation shine. I want every one of us involved in portraying the value we bring to the table. This means a late night, but I believe we can turn this around." The room erupted with rallying enthusiasm. A shared purpose now coursed between them, as if they had collectively lifted a heavy rain cloud, revealing the sunlight that shone just beyond. "Okay, let's make the necessary calls for feedback and get to work." Mark chimed in, a grin spreading across his face, urging others to see the light in the chaos. Angela's heart swelled. This was her team, they were in it together. As laughter and chatter filled the air, the camaraderie sparked within her a sense of hope. They could do this. They proved to their naysayers the strength of teamwork and determination. Hours turned into an exhilarating blur of brainstorming, laughter, and camaraderie. They harnessed creativity, using every tool available to them, infusing their work with an undeniable spark. Each person brought their unique strengths, turning an impending crisis into a blossoming opportunity. As the night wore on, Angela stole a moment to step outside for fresh air. The cool breeze brushed against her skin and whispered promises of success. She thought of Lily and Daniel and how their faith in her fueled every ounce of her strength. This wasn't just a job, it was about paving a bright future for them. When they finally gathered their materials for the presentation, a palpable sense of excitement filled the air. The team came alive, buzzed with a newfound sense of purpose. Meeting their clients the next day felt like stepping onto a stage, and Angela was ready to shine. The boardroom felt electric as they presented their heartfelt pitch. Angela spoke, her voice steady as she wove together the narrative of their work, the history, and the potential that lay ahead. You could feel the energy shift in the room. People who had once viewed her with skepticism now leaned in, captivated by her passion. As her words flowed, she connected with her audience. The pieces came together, forming a beautiful tapestry of hope, commitment, and resilience. When they finished, applause erupted, and for a brief moment, Angela allowed herself to bask in the cheers and positive energy enveloping her. But as the meeting concluded, their clients expressed gratitude mixed with concern. The stakes were still high. A lingering tension thrummed in the air as Angela and her team awaited the final decision. The wait felt like an eternity, stretching nerves taut. "Angela, this was incredible," Mark said, his excitement infectious. But even as they celebrated, Angela couldn't ignore that pang of uncertainty lingering in her chest, and then it came, an email lighting up her screen. She opened it, heart pounding in anticipation. "Congratulations. We believe in you and your team, and we'd like to move forward with our partnership." A wave of relief flooded over her. The team erupted in cheers, embracing one another, and Angela felt the weight of the world lift from her shoulders. The battle had been fierce, but the victory was sweeter than she had ever dreamed, a testament to resilience forged in the fires of determination. As they gathered their things and stepped out into the sunshine, Angela realized something profound. This wasn't just a victory for her career. It was a victory for Lily, for Daniel, and for the hope they held onto in the darkest times. She smiled, her heart swelling with a sense of possibility, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The game was on, and she was more than ready to play, and so, the journey continued, not just for herself, but for all those who believed that through perseverance, dreams could indeed take flight. Now, my friends, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us spread this positivity further. And don't forget to comment with your reactions and feelings about this epic ending. Be an ally for those who need to hear these messages. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.